Day -3 here in rainy Paris. Big races coming up, of course, on Tuesday and Wednesday. The biggest triathlon races for 3 years, and then, of course, the mixed relay the following Monday. I'm Trevor Harris, alongside Helen Jenkins. We have the pleasure and the privilege of calling these races. Calling them's one thing, Helen. Trying to predict them is quite another. At least the forecast is good. It's going to get sunnier, so they say. The men's race is first. Yee and Wilde are most people's favourites, but I don't think it's anywhere near as simple as that, is it?
It's really not, and I think we look at the last couple of years, 3 years of racing, then they are the standout favourites. Yee has edged out Yee and Wilde in most of the battles they've had together, but we look at our two last Grand Series finals, and neither of them have won, and that's a really big shock. So I don't think it's like everyone else is racing for third. There's all the chance for everyone else as well.
Yeah, the last 2 years, of course, they've had the chance to win the title, both of them, and neither has won it on either occasion. Now then, the French, 3 of them, they are going to try, surely, to try and come out of the water and get away from Yee and Wilde, because we know Yee and Wilde won't be right at the front. So can the French actually succeed in that mission, or is it mission impossible?
It is so hard to tell. I mean, that French team, Leo Berger, Dorian Coninx, last 2 world champions. Then we've got Pierre Lecour, who, kind of one of the older men in the race, has come back into fantastic form, already has that Olympic experience also from Rio Olympics. There's 3 really seasoned, amazing athletes there, and they do know that their advantage is the swim. They're not quite up there on the run. They haven't been when it's been that kind of run battles we've seen over the last few years. So you've got to think maybe they're going to try something. They may have planned something to do, but it's incredibly hard on this course. And then you've got the strength of Yee and Wilde, how much they've improved that swim over the last few years. They're always within touching distance now of that front group. So it's really open of what could happen. I'm finding it really hard to predict exactly.
Yeah.
There's so many different scenarios, so yeah, really hard.
And that's exactly the way we like it. They're going to try and get away. The question is, can they stay away? Now, one thing about the swim, you say they've improved their swim, and that of course is true, Helen, but the current is very strong in the Seine, and that's not going to be to the benefit of the slightly less strong swimmers.
This is one of the trickiest swims that the athletes will have encountered. I mean, we have, so there's lots of different kinds of swims. We have pontoon starts, you have beach starts, but I think, and we have river swims as well, but this is probably the strongest flowing river that the athletes have swum in. So it is, I mean, to the fact that with the athletes are being given like the speed of the water at different stages of the pontoon, so where they even start is going to affect how the race goes. But you do think that those strong swimmers are going to be able to navigate that current in the river better than maybe some of the weaker swimmers. Also, decision making will be crucial. Which feet to go to. If one group's kind of taking a more direct route, do you follow them? Or do you take maybe the faster route, which is off course, but out of the current? So
yeah.
Decision making is going to be key too.
Well, let's stick with the Wilde and Yee theme for the moment, because here's my other question. We've seen virtually every race where those two have been together at the front of the run that Yee has prevailed. So is Wilde going to be thinking, let's say they're both in that front pack, there's maybe a couple of laps to go. Surely Wilde is thinking, maybe I've got to make a little break here, because otherwise Alex is likely to outrun me over 10,000 metres.
Looking at past scenarios, yeah, that is likely. And looking back to Cagliari earlier this year, it was only 2 seconds that split them at the end. So they raced for almost 2 hours, and it's 2 seconds at the end. So it's absolutely crazy. So you've got to be thinking, what can he do to kind of make it so he can get ahead 3 seconds? That's all it needs to be, right? Is there a chance that he could break away on the bike? He maybe has superior bike strength to Alex. Alex's bike strength is incredibly good. Maybe he's a little bit underrated on the bike because we always think of him as a runner, but he's always in that chasing position, or has been, and he's had to use that strength. So is he planning something on the bike? Is there an attack planned? Because it's going to have to be planned. You can't just pop off the front of the Olympic Games, especially with the speed of this course, and expect an attack to succeed. There has to be some sort of plan of when it's going to go. Has he got someone that he's going to go with? Yeah, it's going to be really exciting to see.
We mentioned the French in passing. Dorian Coninx, of course, is the world champion, but he had that horrible accident in Yokohama. We haven't seen him since. We hear he's fully recovered, which is great. How much of a disadvantage, though, that he hasn't raced competitively since then?
It's a disadvantage, yeah. I mean, he would have wanted to have kind of tested himself on races, get that fit, you know, see where you are, I think, as well. But, I mean, we have seen athletes do it in the past where they haven't done much racing and still been able to come out and perform. So I think it's a disadvantage, but I mean, he's had that really great team around him to help him get back to fitness. I mean, he's overcome it. You know, he's had to have surgery after Yokohama, so it's incredible that he's come back. And the French team, he's proved his fitness to them, and they've said he's able to go. So it's a big unknown where he's going to be.
Okay, let's have a look at a few other likely or possible contenders. We can't ignore the defending champion, Christian Blumenfeld. We haven't seen that much of him actually on the World Series circuit since he won gold in Tokyo. He's been away doing other things, and of course this season was slightly curtailed because of what happened in Abu Dhabi at the start. The thing with Christian though is that heart, that spirit, you never rule him out, can you?
And I don't think you can discount your previous champion either. I mean, what he did after Tokyo, so winning the Olympic golds, winning the World Championship, winning half Ironman World Championships, winning Ironman World. I mean, it's like no athlete has ever done that.
He'd be in the archery next week, you watch.
In such a short space of time, it's absolutely incredible. And then it's been fascinating to see that shift back to short course, and he hasn't had it all his own way. I'd say he was the faster runner in Tokyo, but it has shifted since then, and his run speed is maybe not quite come back to where it was, and I think that run speed has gone up again in the men's race. So it's going to be whether he's been able to move it. We haven't seen it over the last few World Series he's done, but again, you can't count out Blumenfeld. Like you said, that heart, that spirit, and he's our previous champion.
Yeah. On the other end of the scale, man who has been seen a lot this year and is performing superbly is Matt Hauser, the Australian, coming off the back of that win in Hamburg. Hardly ever runs a bad race. We know how well he's actually running at the moment. He always swims consistently well. He's an excellent biker. There aren't too many weaknesses really when you look at it.
No, I know, and I think the fact he has that great swim really gives him a little bit of an edge over kind of Yee, Wilde, Blumenfeld. You'd expect him to be up there in the swim. And I feel like some of these athletes like Matt Hauser have been able to kind of just keep going and not have too much pressure on them, because everyone's talking about Yee and Wilde, as it has been for the last few years. He's been able to just prepare, kind of go about his business, and he's been getting better and better and better. And yeah, I think the fact he has that good swim is really going to give him a bit of an edge over maybe some of his rivals.
Yeah, well, one of those rivals, Morgan Pearson, we've said it before about Morgan, you never quite know what you're going to get. One day absolutely brilliant, the next race maybe a little bit under par, but surely if he's ever going to be up for one race, it's this one, isn't it?
Well, that's it. Some races is good, some races not. If he gets that good race at the Games, he could win it. I mean, he has the run speed.
Yeah.
And even when you hear those top athletes talk about who are you watching for, Pearson's always in that equation, because that run, when he delivers it, it's race winning. It's just whether he can. The last few races he's suffered on the bike, and it's been a bit of a surprise, because I know his cycling's actually pretty good and he's not too bad technically, so why he's suffered so much the last couple of races, it is a bit of a question mark, and maybe it's a confidence thing, maybe he's kind of that win has put him up there as one of the favourites and it's got a bit of a nerves about it. I don't know what it is, but again, someone you can't discount.
Yeah. A few dark horses we should mention. Vasco Vilaça, for one, the Portuguese, had that nasty bike crash recently, but came back well in Hamburg. I mean, look at his form going back. He's top five almost every race.
I know, it's hard to say him as a dark horse, isn't it? Because he got on the podium at the test event last year. But we do just get maybe a little bit unthought of when we're thinking about kind of talking about the other athletes, but definitely got potential, incredible sprint finish, all round very strong. He has that ability to ride his way back into a race as well, like we saw in Hamburg. He didn't have the best swim, but he is able to use that bike strength to get his way back up to the front and manage to come away with a medal. So another big contender.
Any other men you want to mention you think might be in with a shout?
I think a couple of the younger guys like Miguel Hidalgo, Chongolaiman, both of who have done really well this year. Chongolaiman getting his first medal in Cagliari. Hidalgo had one of the best runs in Yokohama but was stuck behind a crash, and then we haven't seen as much of them. So they're two younger guys, and when they're the younger guys, that curve is kind of coming upwards more steeply, so they might hit that, great form on race day. And also there's that kind of, expectation. No one's looking at me. I can just go for it. You can throw everything in there, can't you? You can just pull something out the bag, do something a bit crazy, because you're already at the Games. We have so many athletes that have been quite cautious on this preparation because they have to finish, they have to get the points, the rankings, there's the selection, there's so much going on. Almost when you get to the Games, anything can happen.
Well, it probably will. We've mentioned 8 or 9. There could be many others in the mix. All will be revealed bright and early Tuesday morning.